Libras, welcome to your weekly Sidereal Astrology forecast. This is for November 28th through the 4th of December 2016. I'm Athen, and this channel is about using the actual constellations in the sky, known as Sidereal Astrology. If you are new, be sure to check out the link down below because the signs are different, which means your sign might be different, and you'll want to watch this for the right sign. All right, so Libra, this week we have a lot going on, as it has been a very impactful November. And we kick things off with a new moon. So new beginnings, and it is a subtler time at the beginning of the week. And this new moon will be in your second house of your resources. So new beginnings with your inner resources. I think all of you have been actually with Saturn in your second, building that self-reliance, building perhaps the inner resources of self-efficacy, your belief in yourself that yes, you can attain your values. Understanding more about what your time's worth, what your energy's worth, and how to actually take steps towards attaining and cultivating and building those values of yours. And that takes us to the external side of this, which usually the second house is about finances and assets and external resources on that level. So patience with all this. Saturn is helping you really see the long road here and take the steps. And the responsible steps, maybe it's saving, maybe it's a bit of the reserve, a bit of the maturity, a bit of, again, patience. And in that way, what you're doing is you can be building good material security, building good inner resources, again, inner self-reliance, self-worth, and even understanding more about your natural gifts and natural abilities. So new beginnings with that, and I think approaching it from the Saturn approach, which is, again, patience and responsibility, is a great way of working with this new moon. But I think you'll find that over the next couple of weeks, you'll probably see some cultivation of this, some things moving forward, and I think especially in the next 6 months with the solar cycle. So along with that new moon, we do have a few things going on this early part of the week as well. Venus will be squaring up to Uranus, and so in this regard, Venus has been in your third house. In fact, Mercury is going to be shifting into that third house at the beginning of the week. So there's placing a lot of emphasis on the mental side of things, the intellectual, if you will. Makes it a really good time for reading, maybe doing some learning, and maybe sharing your information, such as through writing or communication. So really good for that. I think you can be enjoying that with Venus. Mercury comes in here, really helping that mind get active. It's Mercury's house. So you can find that maybe this week going into next, there is a bit more of that practicality, a bit more of a willingness to learn, and maybe some useful things that you can be gathering at this time. It's also good for, exchanging and trading, not just about ideas, but just in general. If there's anything that you do that you are involved with on the marketplace or having to do with trade or something like that, this could be emphasizing that kind of a thing. And Mercury does rule your ninth house, so this is giving you a bit of an expansive view too. I think, with Mercury shift, you'll probably be quite open-minded, I would imagine. It makes it a really good time for higher learning, such as through, university studies or philosophies or spirituality, those types of matters. And the 12th also, Mercury rules. So maybe there's a bit more easygoingness with the learning. Maybe you can find that quite tranquil and quite relaxing. In fact, Jupiter in your 12th house should be giving you plenty of opportunities to do just that. Maybe get the alone time, rest and relaxation, or just get in touch with yourself spiritually, with your soul, with your deeper self, and establishing that beingness there. So anyways, with this transition into the third, Venus squaring up to Uranus does suggest that on that token, if you are feeling a bit irritable this first few days regarding maybe some ideas, or impulsive about some ideas, or rash, it might be through the routine or through the work. It's possible. Uranus is in your sixth. So whatever that is, though, giving it a bit of space. All right, this is the square. It's always good to take a step back, to be present, to be centered, so we're not rushing into things or making any rash decisions or reacting to things. And so in that way, I think there is something to listen to about this square, something about freedom. And Uranus has been helping you have more freedom in your work, in your routine, in your day-to-day. And so whatever that's been, or maybe something in particular this week, listen to that, but implement it, again, nice and slow and steady without jumping the gun into anything with that square. And you may notice too, since this is your ruler, maybe some of the goals or some of the things you've been focused on, or again, learning, getting intellectual with. Maybe that is a bit of a block, or maybe you're feeling like breaking free in general. Okay, so again, presence is really the name of the game with that, and constructively building this inner guidance, this inner freedom that I think is calling you, but calling you to be done in a healthy sort of way. So that's the square there, and the sextile up to Chiron means that with this sort of change that's occurring within you, and again, implementation of freedom, there might be a bit of healing. Okay, so it does make it, it's opening to where if you feel any wounds, if you feel any doubts, any insecurities, it's really about accepting them, and then in the process you heal. And I don't think that's going to be difficult. I think that can come easy in the sextile. So you could be feeling quite refreshed and quite rejuvenated, in fact, around, once we get into the second half of the week here. And that also goes to say that Chiron is going direct, so things are moving forward with the healing. Again, this might be about the routine, might be about the work, might be about your self-improvement, but those things are certainly still going through that rejuvenation, and I think you can be, again, perhaps quite refreshed going into the second half. And I say that not only because Chiron is going direct, but Mars is trining up to Jupiter, and then Mars will be sextiling up to Saturn. So this second half of the week is quite different from the first half. Well, the first half is more about, again, this new moon. It's about the subtler energies and maybe some internal things we're having to work on with that square and whatnot. Then once we get into the second half, it's a much more inspiring and motivating energy. Okay, and this is what Mars trine Jupiter is all about. A bit of inspiration, a bit of motivation, and this can be specifically with some receptive and watery things. Okay, so although it's inspiring, it's about receptive things. And what I mean by that is, first of all, you got Mars at the bottom of your chart, which is helping you motivate yourself perhaps towards your sentiments. Maybe get more in touch with your home, maybe with family, maybe your health. Whatever it is, you may notice that your energy levels are at a bit of a cyclical low with Mars at the bottom. But once you channel that motivation into your sentiments, into home, into family, into your personal life, and even into your health, in that sense, you can find a great motivational force there, especially with the trine from Jupiter, quite inspiring. You may even feel inspired to cultivate some relationships, and maybe some opportunities with that. The second half of the week, Mars does rule your second, and against the personal side to it is what I feel like, and maybe even the financial as well. Again, the new moon in the second, but Mars rules the second, your second. So this is support here, maybe some opportunity, but at the very least, inspiration to cultivate those resources of yours. And it's all coming from a place of, again, where you can have a bit more acceptance, a bit more receptivity, and maybe that alone time, which could be supporting that. That's Jupiter in the 12th, aspecting up to Mars. And then, like I said, Mars does sextile Saturn from the second. Again, positive support from the resource sector. And I think you'll just feel going into the weekend, you're probably quite reserved, quite disciplined, quite practical, I think, about some of these motivations, which is good. At least that's a really good way of working with that sextile there. So that's the week in a nutshell, Libra. The way I would sum this up is certainly new beginnings this week that you'll notice as the week unfolds going into next week about your resources, both inner and outer. Great to take that seriously with Saturn and the responsible approach, the long-term approach there. A lot of emphasis on your third with your ruler here. Mercury shifting into the third as well. Great time to be sharing, exchanging, learning, getting into the practical sides of life. And the square from your ruler and Uranus does suggest a bit of a pause, a needing to maybe, take a step back or take a breath or set something down for a minute, just to, listen to, again, that freedom that I think can be implemented, and it's very important for you to implement, but in that slow and steady way. Then as we get into the second half of the week, definitely a change of energy, Mars trining Jupiter, bit of that motivation, a bit of that inspiration. And I think a lot of that can certainly be channeled into the more receptive side to life, personal life, home life, and maybe, again, getting some of that R&R or receptive time, which is Jupiter in the 12th. All right, Libra, so have a fantastic week. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all next week.